connector of those very hard to reach, far and away. I mean, you remember those old post office ads about, no storm, no snow is going to keep your mail from arriving at your doorstep. Well, now you wonder how the post office will make its claims.
Well, I agree with you, Aastha, that this is a sad story, and there's no doubt that mail traffic has definitely decreased with technology. But if you think about it, in a lot of small towns across the country, people don't even necessarily get delivery to their homes. They have like rural route numbers, and they keep P.O. boxes at the post office, and that's where they go every few days at the very least to pick up their mail and, of course, meet other people, not just greeting the person who's working at the post office, but other people in their town as well, because there is a sense of community there. So things are definitely changing. You gotta wonder how there's such a huge shortfall for the Postal Service when we get so much junk mail.
That's the question.
And how much do companies pay to send all that junk to your mailbox every day? Why aren't they being charged inordinate amounts of money before they get to send like thousands of ads and credit card offers and magazines and catalogs? A lot of that stuff, if it were more expensive for companies to buy, maybe we would, get more money for the post office.
It should hopefully offset the costs that they're facing now. That's a very good point, because those bulk mail offers that you get are really pennies that they're paying. And in fact, in some cases, they only really pay if you return the mail back. For many of the ones that say, no postage necessary, you just have to put it back in the mail. So it makes you wonder, really, if they should be repricing or rethinking their offerings out to these junk mail providers. I completely agree with you. The reason that the post office cites for the closure is in large part because the postal office employees pay significantly lower premiums for their health and life insurance, and they are also, the agency is saddled with billions in unusually burdensome retiree health costs. This is Ramesh's favorite topic, that, the unions have negotiated some of these fantastic deals that really the agency just can't support. So I think it's a combination of renegotiating these contracts, working with these unions, and yes, charging more for the bulk mail offerings instead of upping the stamp costs, the postage costs every couple months like we've seen.
Right, exactly. Moving from sort of this local small post office back to a global topic, the Harvard MBA program has a relatively new dean, an Indian American, Nitin Noria, and he has just announced two big changes he's making to the MBA program, and they actually are more global, kind of going on this idea that we're looking more at urban centers and we're looking at how the world has become globalized and not paying as much attention to those small towns. The two big changes that are happening in the MBA program, one of them is that they're going to focus more on small group learning experiences that are field-based, really based on experience outside of the classroom, out there in the world. So there will be small groups of students, which are between 6 and 8 people, who will travel together, learn together in a field-based environment. And the second big change they're making to MBA programs is to really give students and faculty more control over their course schedules, designing their own courses, making the program more customized for different reasons. Essentially, what we've seen is that there have been MBA programs that have not been as academically rigorous or not having that global focus that we've been talking about. In fact, there was a book published, Rethinking the MBA, out of which many of these ideas that Harvard and other schools are really implementing in their programs. And they want the roles and responsibilities of business to be not limited to models and markets, but to really think more about self-awareness, self-reflection, leadership, really more focused on people, if you think about it.
We talked about this some time ago, about how the MBA programs are out of touch with the state of our economy. And the fact is, the economic meltdown really showed us that there was a wide disparity between people living, as President Obama calls it, Main Street and Wall Street. And these Wall Street executives were living in a whole other world and really weren't well connected with where the people were suffering and what kinds of problems they were facing. I wonder if this is an attempt to try to recover some ground and to also save face a little bit and try to redesign these courses to add some ethics and moral value back into these MBA courses, because they've lost sight. They've become so focused around making money. And this immersion idea of having the leaders actually go out into the field to experience what it's like to be within a company environment, I think maybe to try to get them to develop their moral center to some degree and not be so driven by profit all the time. So I'm happy to see the change come. And as far as customizing these programs, it's about time. I mean, you think that these MBA course curriculums would have learned by now that people are innovative, and if you're going to be innovation-centric, then you have to allow people the freedom to not just go out and pursue new ideas, but to educate themselves in innovative ways. I have to talk about this one more time. I know it's been all over the news. People are sick of it. But this Amy Chua story that has really taken over the web about the Tiger Mom, well, guess what? Book publishers have gotten smart. They realize that controversy is good for book sales. So guess what? On the heels of her book, Harper Perennial is dusting off a 2009 memoir by another fellow writer titled, I Love Yous Are for White People. This is by by author Lak-Soo. And of course, the book is a little bit darker than Amy Chua's book, but it's about how he was brought up. Mr. Lak-Soo was brought up in a very tough love kind of environment at home, where really I love yous and positive reinforcement really didn't exist. Of course, the book recounts his experience as a child growing up, and the book's aim is to show that actually tough love does not make for a very good upbringing. And that, people should say I love you more and do more endearment kind of things and positive reinforcement kind of things, because those are important. So in a way, he's counteracting Amy Chua's tough love on education and rearing children. But I just think it's sort of, opportunistic for these book publishers right on the heels of this book to come out with other titles that are just going to inflame the public.
Well, it's always that pendulum swinging back and forth, right? Because you have, on one hand, a mother writing about her experience with that tough love attitude, very strict, very disciplined, and the benefits of that. And we, as Indian Americans, definitely understand the benefits of some of those kinds of tougher rearing principles, because too many compliments are not necessarily shared in our community. But on the other extreme, what happens when all you get is some of that kind of tough, often negative reinforcement? What if really you don't hear I love you or good job almost ever in your life? So, the other extreme also has its downside, as you can see in the second book about I love yous are for white people. So obviously, we always come back to some kind of balance between the two, but in order to get people talking, you have, both extremes that are highlighted in the media, and then it's up to us, and I think up to every parent, to really decide what balance makes sense for your family. Is it only tough love, or is it lots of positive reinforcement? Probably something in between.